Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 20th of March, 2025, and it's all pretty locked and loaded for some big stuff to go down that isn't necessarily new at all. It's been a big playing out period. We'll get into that this evening. I've written a whole heap of miscellaneous things down to kind of cover. But as you guys would have been experiencing and seeing yourself, but splitting of worlds is really in effect, and the land of confusion is as well. There's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a whole range of different things that are happening. And keeping your center now is really first and foremost on the discipline and the routine. If you're not doing that, well, it's very easy to get caught up in the techno culture of absolute nonsense. Yeah, we're going to speak about that this evening also. Um, More before we kick in and wait for some folks to jump on, I suppose I'll give a little bit of a personal thing because, there's been a few of you reach out, see how I'm doing and all the rest of it. I really appreciate it. Haven't really gone anywhere, but, for me, it's been an important time to go, let's say, backwards into, where I made some really big choice points that lit a flame in a different direction, and go through some lessons learnt, and different developmental stages and a whole range of different stuff. So that's really been important, and that will come out in what I do next, which you guys will see over the next couple of days with Magus, and opening up for consults and a few other bits and pieces. So stay tuned for that. There's some mentoring spots that have opened up now. They'll have some space, and it's really go time now. Like, it really fucking is. I am going to blow my trumpet a little bit, yeah, and it isn't because I need an ego boost, but more so that it shows the themes that are really at play. So very early on in the piece, like I was speaking about this in 2020, and some of the things I was speaking about in 2020, even the woo people and so-called truthers, they threw me like out there. And I understand why. Because a lot of my, let's say, info and knowledge base isn't coming from this techno culture, which is the Skinner boxes and the echo chambers that echo inside social media. And with inside this techno culture, that many don't really grasp what it really is about. And yeah, I'll just go there with it. Okay. There is a huge majority of folks out there, and I'm a live and let live guy. Yeah. So it is what it is. But within this techno culture, there's a lot of this EQ um, based kind of language where it's all, emotionalism. There lacks a little bit of rationality about it. And it is very much tied to the way that the algorithm has been working for a period of time. So when it actually comes to a lot of discussions, there isn't any real informed objection. Everything is really coming from a reactive parenting that a lot of folks have taken on information, whether it be through their own research, through YouTube rabbit holes, and a whole range of different things. Yeah, great. Like silent truths have brought it up, and there's a lot of debate and craziness that goes on. Yeah, win-win. It was all part of the game. But where I'm getting to is that I was first one part, privileged to have this information given to me by someone in the real world standing across them, who I would consider as not just a man of knowledge, but someone who is, a significant man, has gone and done some amazing things in life, and to be able to shoot the shit with. Yeah, it's great. And his words were to me that, through this passage of time, being 2020 to 2030, that there's going to be some monumental moments, and we're on the precipice of one right now. And that there is the Rockefeller and Rothschild system falling in on its own weight, big time. And that has to do with the EU and NATO really breaking apart. Now, if you were to look at that, there actually is no other architecture for when that falls apart, what actually goes into. Yeah. And this is one part you could say concerning, but this is really a part of these transitions. I've spoken about it, that 2020 to 2024, intense times. 2025 is a choice point. And, the mystical element of it is a lot of people have already made the choice. They're coming into their own about it. And what would I suggest that would be a data point of that? I'll tell you. As of last August, this is one thing. Yeah, I am a woo guy. I am a mystic guy, but my background in business and that stuff there, I treat it all as a game. Collecting data points. But we've had a massive increase in folks that were once a part of, let's say, law of attraction, new age side of things, and all the rest of it. Yeah, okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to ban it, but they've all now kind of slipstream, had some water on their head, and they're Christians now. So rather than taking any accountability for anything, it's just, let's just change with the trends. That's fine. Okay. There's not really any lessons learned there. The same as a lot of black pillars coming out of it. And there's been a lot of folks fall into some black pill, but once again, there isn't any really informed objection. It's all reactionary type of parroting. And the moment that they're met with any type of resistance, it turns into this kind of bitchcraft game of, let me, what would be the best way of doing it? Light some fires, catch some smoke, and then play the victim by pushing out another vulnerability post about how, whatever it is. But with this techno culture, a lot of people have really gone of an inversion with EQ, particularly with what would be woundology, a lot of trauma work. It's all somatic. It's all the rest of these things. They all have a really relevant place. They do. But within the techno culture, their whole reality testing frame is based upon this here and the mediums that we're actually talking to, that are skinner boxes and echo chambers. So they're not really hearing anything else outside of that or their closed environment. And ultimately, they're actually in a padded cell based upon blue light technology. But when it comes to the solar world, that gorgeous fucking orb in our sky, they can't function. There's nothing on their resume that actually is proven and tested as a reality test. So you've got this, I do all of this shadow work, I do all of these things, but the moment reality tests them, they will vacate back into this type of victimhood side of things that has been a wetware program that has been installed. So it becomes quite difficult to even table conversations, even with the perversion in language. And here we are, not just through what's going on with Trump, but you're seeing this, you can say, a rise of the Renaissance man and the muse. There's a lot more women that have snapped themselves out of the Ashrad death cult and Jezebel nonsense that are really coming into their own at the moment. Much love and respect to all of you ladies. And there's a lot of men that have been, sitting on the sidelines for a while because there's been just so much nonsense, even with a word play at the moment, which I'm going to give you, is that, oh, I'm a heart-centered man. Okay, what type of heart-centered man is it? Because if you were to ask 10 people, well, they're going to say 10 different things. But just from a shift in whose frame is what, this heart-centered man that seems to be populated in the techno culture is of guys that live in this padded cell. They have no authority or any real power in the solar world. their power is essentially a perception game with linguistics and playing bitchcraft, because their mental point of origin is of a submission and trying to be seen in a very particular way, so their digital self bounces back at them. But in the real world of action, there actually is nothing, because if you would take anybody out of a techno culture and be like, what actually is it that you're doing for the world, or what actually you're doing, you're going to get donuts. It's almost in a padded room. You can't speak to me that way. This much mean, and all of this over psychological analytical type of theory, that it is essentially is language to hide behind some type of fight or flight response, where you know you've triggered me, or I need to regulate my nervous system, or all the rest of these things. Great, then maybe you should spend more time doing that rather than getting on these platforms, being passive aggressive, lighting fires, and when reality testing comes back, you fail it every time. I'm going to get more further into that over the next few weeks, because I really think it's important to open some eyes up. But where I was going with that is the old architecture that has been in place, even before World War One, but let's say from World War One, is that you're really starting to see through silent truths that there's a lot more to history than what really meets the eye. And there is this battle that's really been going on for quite some time of who's going to be in the authority, or what does it actually transition from a new international architecture. And it's great for debate, but if you are not informed or have let's say, subject matter expertise, or to be able to bounce off with some people that actually play in the game, well, everything is going to be biased upon what you actually think. You don't know what you don't know. And then it becomes confirmation biases packed up by inside an echo chamber that then creates this false sense of reality. And here is the interesting part just with this here, because folks will have a knee jerk reaction about financial, whatever that is, and all the rest of these other side subjects. But how much of that is really coming from a informed choice and pushing actual information out there to give people the opportunity to take something on and actually think for themselves? Or is it a reinforcement of a fear-based program of, I am certain of this, but when the question is actually asked, how are you certain, there actually is no substance upon how that is actually backed up, nor can one person actually build out or formulate how they've come to that conclusion. This is this interesting part about this time, which, I'm excited about. I really am, because the big conversations need to be had. And how are we actually going to have them? Is it still going to be dictated by a town square that we know is rorted by the algorithms and the PC culture, with the twisting of language that is more tied to an EQ? So my feelings override reality. And if I am stuck in a techno culture without myself even knowing, well, you can't exit the matrix, can you? I'll just say this, because I've said it a few times and people laugh at me, but there seems to be a lot of folks that yell and scream of 15-minute cities. Okay. Elements of that are going to play out. Look, said that. Elements of it. Okay. Elements. But if I was to ask some of these folks who seem to be quite vocal all over social media with their certainty, but before they were actual truthers or whatnot like that, what were they actually doing with their life? And you got to go, okay, that's respectable, but do you actually have the intellectual prowess to actually communicate, or is it just cheap clicks and motive to cause some fire that beads into the algorithm that you say you're against, but you support it? But how many of them have actually existed outside of their 15-minute zone since they got their COVID trophy 5 years ago? And the COVID trophy seems to be this kind of recycling of when people need some cheap dopamine. Let's rev that right up and recircle or recycle that type of stuff. And rightly so. Okay, you can go and do what you want, but don't sit there and pretend that you've got something actual of value to say when your whole frame and game is based around lighting fires, catching some smoke, and playing bitchcraft. Like those days are done. Right, you can very clearly see that, and I wish all of those folks well. Maybe they should do their own courses and do some of their shadow integrating and all the rest of that, and actually allow reality testing to be the actual initiation and rites of passage of getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, and being able to be heart centered with courage to actually think and speak with some type of value system, integrity, and principles, rather than an emotional base that just seems to be switching and turning, putting on masks. And, that game's done. This Bitchcraft Jezebel Ahab game. Well, I wish you all the best with that. And I suppose just to lock that all up, even though it seems that I'm going all over the place, you can see this all across the social order at the moment. Okay. The social tension is super hot, but you and I have some very big choices that are on the fucking table. Yeah. Are you going to really know where your center is, what game you're actually playing, and get consistent with playing that and building momentum and have a consistency of your choices, or get really caught up in this reactionary game that is based upon cheap clicks that you've been psychically analyzed and driven into these types of platforms, where you end up believing your own nonsense. Like, can you actually have the courage to see things as they are, make a choice, and action? Yeah. Monad coming through, being a part of reality, the real world? Or is it still reactionary type of behavior, and your choice is to go internal and almost want to make things a particular way to keep you safe, and then utilize a set of circumstances that are of an illusionary, almost digital kind of footprint to verify your own existence? Like, it's a very big game. And also the choice point as well, which is an exciting period of time, right? There is going to be massive things, power vacuums and all the rest of it. How are you spending your time at the moment? Yeah, like, it is very obvious to see. Yeah, there's been some very good folks out there that have done their utmost to throw a lot of data points on the table, to really educate, to give you guys, and me also, the opportunity to see the game as it plays out, so that when you come into your own, where are you actually making those choices from? Yeah, and being a part of that. Sigma entered the chat. Hey, righto, Jace. It's an interesting time with that. So really the choice is it going to be solar out there in the real world, reality testing, leaving your imprint or getting involved, or is it from a lunar frame sitting behind the safety of a keyboard, passing lip service like you're in the peanut gallery, thinking you have some type of authority, but when it comes to actually reality testing, you crumble it every time? Like, what's the point of doing a healing journey for the past 10 years when you can't actually communicate effectively what you're thinking, but it's bitchcraft that you use to get other people to fit into your frame? Like, what are we talking about here? Yeah. All high vibe, higher conscious, great, all for it. But if you can't stand in your center with your flame and actually communicate what you're thinking, or even able to communicate effectively from your heart, but there seems to be these covert contracts in play, it's a big game. It's a big choice, and here it is. Because ultimately, if you're playing here with the sun, you're going to see things as they are. You're going to have the courage and the foresight and the opportunity within yourself to see a new domain of knowing and move into that with those that you have around you, whether you are in a leadership position with family, The fucking dudes, the Renaissance men, I know who you're at, where you're at. You've quietly just been accumulating, doing what you need to do. You've been paying attention for a while. Kudos to that. The same as with your muses. There's been a great growth within that, the rekindling of that flame coming together. And this is the magical component of this time. But if it is this Ahab and Jezebel type of nonsense where everything needs to be soft and cushy and all of these fucking layers of control, landmines everywhere and all the rest of it, I wish you well with that, because that there is coming to a close. You can't sit there and talk about power, authentic self, and truth if you're perverting your own language and your own thinking, because the way that you have communicated with covert contracts is the very existence upon where you actually sit within your frame. For me, that there is a form of bitchcraft and weakness. And there seems to have been for a period of time. Don't worry, I've copped it, and I'm not going to be an asshole. That's very easy to shoot flames and shoot all the rest of this stuff. When it comes to the real world, you've got no resume, nothing. Where does it actually stand up? Very easy to sit behind something and do a lot of talking. But where I'm getting to is that you've got the opportunity and the choice, a reckoning, a reclamation moment to be where you stand. And as situations present themselves and old collective agreements that have been a part of this era break apart, are you going to be able to see that new and come through and fill that void? Or is it going to still be this type of fucking chaos and nonsense that is going around? And that's okay too. You got to dance what you need to dance, and that's fine. Live and let live. But here are these significant opportunities. Like, it's very easy to go to a weekend workshop, right, and go, oh yeah, I went through an initiation and rites of passage. Okay, great, awesome. Yeah, let's see what happens in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. You've got the Robbins effect. There's nothing really in effect there. But when you're meeting it, reality testing, and it tests you right there, are you going to revert back to the same habits, the same programs, the same beliefs, the same perceptions, or are you going to make a choice that opens? There's fear, there's anxiety, there's all the rest of those things. They're all signposts. I think we've given way too much authority over to this EQ cult of needing to process absolutely everything. What happened to the old cowboy fucking mentality of like, fuck it, let's just run with it and figure it out as it goes. And if I stumble, I learn. But if I get a head of steam up, like, I'm on here. I'm fucking building. This is it. These are these times, and there's been a lot of sages and mystics, and a lot of people say a lot, but there definitely is a consistency. And that consistency, is going to be upon how you choose and how you act. And it's a big one. Or is it going to be the adversary making you react in a particular way? The adversary, true definition, means Satan. This satanic system isn't a red man with some fucking horns and a tail. It's actually a system of thinking, a game of separation. Are you able to meet the call in the now moment and with pen in hand actually make a choice that is consistent with your values, your principles? The constitution you've written, and actually that there is the new collective agreement. We're going to figure it out as it goes. I'm prepared to have the difficult conversation, but these uncooperative zero-sum games that have been thrown out there by the political class and by the Ahab and Jezebel class, that no longer is a zero-sum game. It's a cooperative win-win. It's why you hear the term revalue. A lot of people are thinking about it just in in forms of a monetary. Revalue is reconstituting our values that actually is the bedrock of the culture. What does that actually look like? And as the social contracts break apart, are you going to be a part of those conversations? Are you actually going to be there? Have you got something to input? Yeah, that's coming from knowledge, yeah, or even informed objection, or is it still based around that someone has a COVID trophy and that's what they point to have some type of significance that they know actually what the fuck's going on? These are these funny games. And the land of confusion, wow. Let's get into that. Yeah. It seems to be a lot of talk at the moment that it's all they're doing this and it's gonna turn into a fucking technocracy. All right, awesome. Great. You know that word. I've always found it interesting when someone throws that shit at me and I turn around and ask them this. This is just a simple question. What form of it? They can't answer it. They never do. They can't. They haven't even looked at it. They've grabbed a word and they've placed it into their fear bracket to yell and scream. And anybody who, even when I've asked that question, does the script fucking come out? It's like how you're playing an uncooperative zero-sum game. You're speaking about things that have some type of relevance, but if that there is your only perception and only lens, how are you actually really able to see the game as it's being played? They can't. So everything needs to be in this almost narcissistic, contrarian type of behavior, which what I was speaking about before, that's backed up by this techno culture. You know, throw a bit of Carl Jung, throw a little bit of this, throw a little bit of that, and let's use some terms of what a real man is, what a real, like all the rest of this lingo dribble that I think my mate Jag coined it the best. You know, this fucking childlike psychology. It's like, wow, okay, you got a coaching certificate, but when you got your coaching certificate, did you get a fucking psychotherapy certificate as well? Like, do you actually read the literature, or is it the 3-minute videos that somehow you verify that is what people are actually talking about? You know, we've gotten so far removed from what is actually the great attributes of the Western culture, you know, particularly over the last 20, 30 years. You know, men of knowledge, where are they? They're still around, but they're just, what's the point in actually trying to have a conversation from a place of subject matter expertise when someone is living in absolute delusion land? They don't know what they're speaking about, but just want to sit there and continually emote. It's a zero-sum game, so why play? Yeah, but as this fabric and these foundations of what actually really has taken place and silent truths are there, well, there is a new domain of knowing. Are you actually going to go and play in it or not? Very easy to sit there and be all about health and all over this about health and all the rest of these things. Great. What are you doing in the real world? You're part of that? Or is it this padded blue light screen reality that you're saying that you've exited the matrix, but unbeknownst that the wetware program is already installed and it is doing your thinking for you? Yeah. I was ostracized 4 years ago for trying to explain that. You want to speak about psyops? That's essentially where we're really at this time, and it's really important to know the details of certain things, because by doing so, you're going to be able to go, hang on a moment, what actually is this program? You're going to catch yourself in your habitual programs and be able to start to make more choices that are inconsistent with the force that you're actually a part of, bringing that through, down and out. There is new skill sets. There are other components to actually revisit and redefine. What an amazing time. Yeah. Do you want to be transformed? You really want to be fucking transformed? Yeah. Well, find your center, reality testings, sit there and listen to people you don't even agree with, but to have an informed objection brings the bandwidth of perception into perspective. You're able to see things as they actually are. You're not going to be bamboozled by your own wetware program that has been installed since you started watching television. Yeah, forget about all the rest of the other things. Here is an opportunity to redefine, yeah, almost unlearn. And here's one that, I suppose you're going to be hearing a lot more about this over the next period of time. And this goes out for the lads. Yeah, I'm giving myself a plug here with Man of Knowledge. When have you given yourself 3 to 6 months of actually working with someone that you go, hang on a moment, this bloke here or this person here, they've been to these places, not just speaking about it. Yeah, can I work with them for a period of time so that I can come into my own and utilize my own experiences and go through a real life initiational process that is reality testing, where I can go into the labyrinth of my mind, deconstruct, read some Aristotle from 2000 years ago, and place myself back there to that man and read the absolute beauty of the reasoning of a man of knowledge like that. Really have a look and dissect, because the information is there for you to bring it into your own. Yeah, have a relationship with it? Or is it still going to be this kind of parroting of a confirmation bias that needs to be continually fed with a reinstallment? And hence why we get this land of confusion. It's an exciting time, and away we go. Even the play at the moment of our ego death and continued rebirths and my healing journey, this and the same type of script. Suppose you could almost go, oh, Grant, you're still coming from a wound. Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. That someone can lie, manipulate, blackmail, and then reinvent history, and then just all of a sudden to go, oh, that was me just playing out my daddy wounds, and I've now changed my name and I've had a rebirth. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Now that there gets put up online, and the Ahab and Jezebel cult go and actually reinforce that. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Higher consciousness and all the rest of this psycho dribble. Yeah, great. We're really going to get down to the truth of the matter and see things as they actually are, from a heart-centered place of courage. When you see it, speak about it. Can you think, actually articulate your words, get into the craftsmanship of certain things, or play bullshit facade games? Here these are these choices. And hence why this year is so important, 2025. I'm not the only one that's been saying this. This is a massive choice point that will echo out, not just over the next 4 years, but how are you actually playing the game? Do you even know the game that you're in? Do you know the rules of it? Do you know how to actually move in it? Do you see the other characters that you may not like, but go, hang on a moment, they're actually playing a game. Here we go. What do you got there? Yeah, well, I'll speak about AI in a moment, but coming into your own and owning your role. What is that role? What actually is it that you're actually exploring? Every single system that has been a part of this architecture, from the instatement of, let's say, the Bretton Woods Agreement, um, the Balfour Agreement, and even the UN, is really up. Yeah, there's power vacuums all over the place. The whole Green New Deal cult that has infected the West. Well, you've just seen very quickly over in the US that the bureaucracy that has been in control of that is falling apart. That's going to sweep through the Western world. Yeah, it really is. It's not a matter of if or when. It's been a gradual process for a period of time. Hence why I've been speaking about it for as long as I can, more so to have you guys have the opportunity to see it so that you can come into your own. And the old ways of the 9 to 5 hive mind of an uncooperative zero sum game that you can actually be a participant and actually move forward, bring your knowledge and your expertise, your innate talents to the game under the sun at high noon, not just sitting in the saloon telling tales that you know all of these things, but in reality, out there under the sun, you don't even have a spine. It's not earned. Yeah, it's an information gathering exercise that has been subject to a techno cult, yeah, that has reinforced the false sense of reality. And, that's why whenever um, things get checked, there's always that bitchcraft in play. There's a few other things I got here, but I suppose another time. But one thing I want to throw at you guys, and if you've got some questions, I'm happy to go into it. You guys can see that, it's not so much I'm fired up, but I've done what I've needed to do. And, the timing and data points are there that are actually the, I suppose the gate for me to be able to play, which is exciting. But, spend some time in actually knowing what your frame is. Okay. If that's the first time you've heard about it, well, maybe go and have a look at it. What actually is your frame? The importance of your frame, the values, the principles that you actually align to. Really go through the transparency of your own self-importance, thinking you know things that you don't, because through that there is one part of it that is going to show you how much nonsense and truth attainment or whatever, entertainment, so to speak, you've been running with that has no real bearing in the environments that are about to pop themselves out in the big game. Yeah. And do you want to play in that under the sun at high noon, reality testing? Yeah. As a fucking warrior. Yeah. There. Or you want to live in the saloon? Yeah. Drinking soft drinks, telling other people's yarns and stories that have no real bearing when it comes to reading your Akash. Yeah. Do you have scars that you treasure and look at that, yeah, there was pain, but it was a learning. So it's an exciting time. And, it might sound that I've been a bit heated and contrarian, but there's no more time for fluffing about, so get your program ready, get your position accordingly kind of ready. Whether it's me or some others that you actually respect, reality test some folks, like literally, yeah, because you're going to find there's a lot of masks out there that speak real fucking slick, and speak words that they don't know what they actually mean. But because they're all feels good, sound good, they're being lulled into a false sense of fucking innuendo. But those folks that are speaking that, if you were to ask them how they come to that knowledge, is it through experience and wisdom? Yeah. Or actual grit in the real world? Or is it a consequence of paying some money to do a weekend workshop and then regurgitate and parrot something that feels good and sounds good? This is this kind of time where it's, you can say everyone is thirsty for truth. Awesome. But how much truth do you actually want to drink? Are you prepared to walk into a room, yeah, and be told that if you were to go in that room, you will pop out the other side a completely different person? Or are you going to go into that room and try and make it fit the way that you need to have a transformation? Yeah. Can you allow the mystery in that moment of friction and reality be right there? Suck the marrow out of the bones, the mystery right there. It is only your will, your focus, and your intent that actually paints the picture and gives you a choice to be able to move with it. Big choice, fucking legends, and it's exciting. Let's speak about AI. Once again, I can blow my own trumpet with this. Yeah. There's a choice with AI. Is the chip thing and stuff like that in people's brains going to play out? Absolutely. People are already losing their shit about it. It's a choice. Okay. But um, I actually wrote it down. It was in 2021 when I started to speak about this that, once it started to go open source, that's where you would start to see a lot of the technology come out. What have we started to see over the last month or two? Pat on the back for Grant. Now, I have to be honest with you, that wasn't just me looking at data points, but I do have some contacts that I'm able to bounce some shit off with. And that was, one of their key markers. And depending which way that goes, because that technology from an open source environment actually needs to be a part of the new international architecture and the new financial system and some other components as well. You can yell and scream and do whatever you want to fucking do with it, or you can actually go, this is the way things are going. I'm going to get on board. And when the power vacuum actually opens up, I'm going to be in the real world testing and playing and shaping it rather than what are you going to do? Yeah. That's big. Yeah, very big. And does AI have some dangers to it? Absolutely. But the shit that we are seeing right now is not revolutionary at all. Open AI in, let's say, your hands and my hands with schematics and be able to actually build things out. Well, that's where liberty and freedom in a different value exchange system starts to build itself out. I think there's a lot of utopia out there that think that it's going to be a click of a finger and happen within a week. No. Just look at what's happened over the last 4 years. Yeah. Essentially, deals have already been done. And there's a lot of toing and froing with things to play themselves out. So are you playing a bigger game, watching the data points? Yeah, understand that it is it's a very hot environment. And, to be able to be playing a longer game, a bit of game theory as well, so to speak, where you're able to move with it, yeah, here under the sun as it is taking place. Yeah, because here's the reality of it, yeah. And what's the best way of putting this one without being a cunt? There's a reshaping of history taking place, and you can see it. I'm going to give you some allegory here, okay? So back in the time of Israel, when it was a united kingdom under King Solomon, when King Solomon died, the kingdom broke apart. It had a northern kingdom and it had a southern kingdom. In the northern kingdom, there was 12 tribes that aligned themselves with that, okay? And the rest were in the southern kingdom, yeah, where, let's say, be more consistent with following the teachings of Solomon and what that was really all about, which hopefully in not too distant future, we're going to have a little bit more information about what that is really about. Once again, this is more allegory. Yeah, so there's truth involved with this, but it needs to be built out. Those 10 tribes essentially built themselves out to, you can even go into the story of Ahab and Jezebel in the Bible, what that was all about. But from the instatement of that kingdom, you can see certain tragedies that had taken place. What does that have to do with now? Well, it seems everyone thinks they understand everything about Zionism and Jews and all the rest of it, but it's right there in front of your face. If you know how to utilize allegory and those components, you can see there's a lot more truth in that. But men of knowledge throughout time have been there at precipice moments throughout history We can have a look at the formulation of the Constitution of the Americas, yeah. And where did that spring from? Well, really, it is a Native American um, inspired document. So it's tied to the wisdom of that land. There's a whole heap of shit that needs to sort itself out there, but I'm just giving you the thing. You have a look at the Knights Templar, okay? You have a look at the the samurai in Japan. There's all the rest of these different things all over the world where, men of knowledge or Renaissance men actually come together at very particular points. And what hasn't really been told in relation to that too, yeah, a lot of those men were inspired by their women, the muse, to create more of a community and safe society. It's just unfortunate for the last 30 years that this Jezebel spirit and Ahab the cuck sit there and want to demonize the actual safety, the conquering, the engineering. Great, like, look what we've done with Western civilization. Even though we've had this fucking death cult and blood cult controlling, what's it going to look like for a man when that there isn't on the back, and it actually isn't the constant driving of that for the control of society? It's going to be a little bit of a wild place for a period of time. Are you developing yourself for that? Are you really looking at that? Or is it still this kind of fantastical type of thinking of just yelling and screaming without actually applying what you know? And here is once again this choice point. To know and not do is to not know. But to know something as well is to be able to be very real. Yeah, because if you overestimate yourself or you put your self-importance above all else, you're going to become a fool. And I'll be a little bit of a smart ass here because I've watched it happen so many times over the years. But and it happened to a mate of mine a few months ago. I'm not sure if I told you this story, but I will. Won't give too much away. But he has a doctorate in engineering. Yeah, he's been a part of building some pretty big shit all around the world. And his wife has, got involved with a so-called conscious community or whatnot like that, which is great. He's on the level, he's still playing his game. Yeah, but he's another one. Yeah, just waiting for AI to get to the point, and like some of the shit his brain is, wow. And there's a lot of folks like that. It's a timing game. It's fucking amazing. But he decided his missus said, look, they're looking to do this and to build this and to do this. Can you go down there and, help? Wasn't really interested, but, you can tell he's an Aussie bloke. He's sitting there thinking, if I go and do that, I might get some fucking credits in the bank and, get a few sex trinkets. So he goes down there and, and I don't mean to be harsh, but they knew his background, okay? It was widely known. So he's gone out of there at his own time, rolled down there, and there's a little bit of a working bee or going on, and they're wanting to build this structure. And he's asked them, he's like, look, what are you doing here, blah, blah, blah. There was a guy there that had built a pergola before. And the way that he was trying to plan to build this structure was from the knowledge base of a pergola, okay? And when old mates turned around and gone, look, you need to do this, and this, you'd think that those folks with his credentials would actually listen and be like, you know what? Let's get on board. No, it turned into an EQ shit show where he, within the space of a minute, just gone back and jumped in his car and like, I'm not having this. I'm not wasting my time with that. Yeah. And it turned into a massive big drama. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is if you know, like really know where your standards are at with executing something and someone rolls up that has that next level, they have knowledge to impart to you, are you going to be a dick, or are you going to go, what do you need me to do to make this to happen? Yeah. That's the world of men under the solar frame. Yeah. Like, know your shit, know really where you're at. Like, they're those things. But if you want to get into this lunar frame side of thing, and I say this for the women as well, like I've seen it happen where you've got a woman who knows how to actually build out a herb garden and a garden, where you've got someone from the titty committee that likes to play with some herbs, wants to roll up and tell everybody how to actually plant a garden, that doesn't even know how to fucking keep a plant alive in her little sex den. Like, what the fuck's going on here? You know, this is what I mean, getting really, really real and understanding the choice points and really seeing things as they are. You know, it's going to get wild, wilder than what it is. And this is this land of confusion and psychological fallout. So where was I going with that? By understanding those types of things and understanding your throne, yeah, like knowing the cycles that you're into, your developments, there isn't this constant need to, oh, I need to continually process my somatic exercises of all of my trauma that's in my body, or I need to do a shadow because I don't like the way that I think, or all the rest of it. Like, I get that. That's a part of, you know, let's say, you know, getting yourself back to center. But when it's become the doctrine that's out there inside the EQ town square cult, like, what actually is it that you have to offer in that? Or have you, without yourself knowing, become the lowest common denominator that needs to compromise everything else into your frame because of your own sensitivities, because of all the rest of these things? Like, where are we really at here? And unfortunately, this is going to be one of those things in a short period of time that is either going to make us or break us when it comes to having the difficult conversations. Because those that are paying attention, you can start to see them really bubbling up right now, really. And I'll leave you guys with this one if anyone has any questions. Yeah. And I don't mean any disrespect with this at all. I'm just telling you fucking straight. And it's a decent enough example. And as to the COVID trophy folks, it might sound like I'm giving them a bit of shit, which I am, but they've served a purpose. Like, COVID actually is more than a silent truth now. It still needs to play itself out. Like, what do you need to keep pointing at that? There's other things that require your attention. Spend time on that. But I had a few that when I spoke about it very early on, coming from Fort Dietrich's and, you know, giving data out there, fuck, was I called some names? That's fine. I can wear that, you know, like I know some things. And then all of a sudden it turned into, there's no such thing as viruses. The biolabs in Ukraine don't exist. And there was all the rest of this stuff. And I found it interesting because it was a, you could say psyop in a sense, but it was a perversion in linguistics, very similar to the Tartaria stuff and the flat earth stuff. Yeah. So that it all got convoluted. So there was not any real opportunity to have discussions and build it out. Well, now you can see, you know, and a lot of folks really went gun ho with it, even from the point of continually lighting fires and even creating a divide and conquer with someone who was like, hang on a moment, there's something else more here. It's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as a virus, all the rest of these things, blah, blah, blah. My certainty. If you believe in that, then you don't know what's going on. Well, let's bring it to the present moment. And if you were to read RFK Jr.'s book about it, it's speaking from Fort Dietrich's forward. Yes, there are some elements of that story left out. But then you've also had someone like Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a serious motherfucker, even build out the story from before that, around the Kennedy time, all the way up to present day. I sit here at the moment and I'm like, if you guys were really all about your COVID trophy, you'd be sit there speaking about that, but you're not. Why is that? Well, because you've got a gatekeeping protection racket, because you've run your fucking mouth off with stuff you weren't certain of, but the reinforcement of the ideas here with inside Skinner boxes. So then the question is, yeah, well, is it really about the truth, or is it really now just about the cheap clicks? Yeah. And I bring this up because disclosure has happened. The silent truths are right there now. Are we able to actually have the conversations without the self-importance and he said, she said, and get to the nitty-gritty of it? Yeah, you and I and the asylum, yeah, the town square. Or is it still going to be all the rest of this craziness? And for me personally, you can love me now, hate me later. I really don't give a fuck. But to watch the likes of Conor McGregor, Andrew Tate, and a few of the other fight guys, okay, their frame is fighters. Yeah, you cannot like them or whatever. Yeah, they're fighters and they speak their mind, they speak their heart. That's what it is. Why are they all repositioning at the moment? Because they understand the time that we're in, and not to go all strongman, but there's going to need to be some very difficult conversations that we're a part of. And you're going to need to have men of a certain caliber, whether you go, if it's violence or they know how to hold frame and dictate, they're going to be needed, because we've got a kingdom of Ahabs that have a female EQ point of origin that only speak the social tongue or the trending topics. Yeah. When have you actually seen them actually dissect or get into some type of debate without it being some twisting and turning and all the rest of these things? And, this is this exciting period of time. And once again, which I'll leave you guys with this, it's a choice. Yeah. The Renaissance period, once upon a time, yeah, particularly for Europe, that was the that came about from the onset of the Ottoman Empire destroying the Byzantine Empire, or taking over Constantinople, which was once upon a time the center of the world, yeah? And all of that knowledge, all of those books and all the rest of it moved through Europe and started the Renaissance period, a very enlightening time. And if you're a man or even a muse, yeah, a woman, have a look at that time. Yeah, the Enlightenment phase, how it spread throughout Europe. Like some of the literature, like it's so fucking beautiful, and where it took us. And yes, the fuckers came in and played their games, but this is this ancient battle that's coming to a figure point. Are the young lions of Tarshish being Britain, young lions, merchants of the US, the Canadians, the Australians, UK, those young men of the West that know the knowledge of their ancestors and forebearers, understand the struggle, the things that they had to build buried deep in the bones, of actually bringing that forward and dreaming it forward into the ancient future with the best of what is actually the bedrock of society. What an amazing time. And if that doesn't get your juices flowing, I don't know what will. Yeah, I really don't. And for the sisters, I mean this from the depths of my heart. There's some big conversations that your town square needs to have, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be quite brutal. But with that are the waters that can wash away a lot of pain and a lot of blood. And then with that as well, um, you know, working with the counterpart in our actual roles, knowing where we're really at. Yeah, having the conversations, getting into the nitty gritty rather than this projected idea of fantasy and desire and all the rest of the other nonsense that has been pushed out there by the Baal and Asherah death cult, followed by Ahab and Jezebel and their nonsense. Yeah, it is a massive inversion, no doubt. But at what point does the line get drawn in a present moment and really be able to see that and make a different choice? And where is that choice coming from? Is it coming from on high, the monad through into the world, or is it the world pushing upon us and us reacting in a particular way because we need it to sustain ourselves? So here is this game, Legends. And I know I've probably gone all over the place this evening with some things. My intention was to make it a little bit more structured, but that's kind of not how I roll, is it? So there's that. More to come with a whole range of different things over the next period of time. I have not been sitting on my hands. I've been very busy. Probably a conversation for another time. But for the lads, yeah, mentoring is open. Man of Knowledge with Magus Guild will pop out tomorrow. So happy to have some conversations there. And I will be running a mastermind. It's serious. If you really want to see yourself in the arcane and learn the skills that are beneficial for you to play in a new domain of knowing and occupy yourself in your assemblage point and playing in a new octave of awareness, well, that's what that is going to be about. Yeah. And utilizing the celestial heavens and those cycles in alignment with the sun. Yeah. Understanding a lot more of the mystical way of being a man rather than this kind of emotive type of frame. It is a live and let live, and pick your own choice, which is awesome. But my call is for those men that have a fire that goes back in time and it is starting to ramp up, and to be able to utilize it as the alchemical fires in the forge to sharpen one's blade, their mind, know how to wield it with their tongue. And when it comes to the matters of the heart, being able to be courageous in one's thinking and stand in the now, uncompromised. Yeah. Knowing the ways of the mystery. So hit me up if that sounds interesting to you guys. But I will love yous and leave yous for now. Yeah, it's an exciting time. Spend your give a fucks bucks wisely. And the word discernment's even fucking polluted at the moment. I don't want to use it, but perhaps just when it comes to this, yeah, use it as an extension of yourself. Okay. Same as with all technology. Yeah. Here, there, because it bouncing back on you is just going to make you fall into fantasies and be hoodwinked by lullabies and illusions that you will dream your own importance into, and then get upset when things don't work out that way. That pain is coming for a lot of folks, and I don't want to rub salt into the wound, but the era of truth isn't just 1 year. It is really a part of this age. The reality mechanics changing. So many things already have. Just depending upon where one comes into it in their own time and the choices they make. I've made the, let's say the allegorical suggestion a few years ago, of getting your boat out into the bay. I think you could see now who has done that. And unfortunately, there's some folks that are stuck on the shore that speak real sweet, speak real slick. But when it comes to the achievements underneath the sun and going through the experience into wisdom and to knowledge and it actually being a part of them, well, they have failed that. And they know that. And that's okay. But there's some choices to make there as well. And be as kind to yourself as possible, not from a gentle sense, but be kind when you can be transparent with your own bullshit. Because once you're able to do that, you choose then what the program, belief, and perception actually is. Even if you want to still play in that game or follow a dreaming thread and see where that leads you, or perhaps ask some questions of someone who you look at and go, they've been to some places, they have some insight to share from a place of knowing where I'm actually at. And I was reminded the other day is that men see themselves in younger men or other men around them, whether it's they need to improve on certain things, but particularly when it comes to the young fellas, yeah, and the young fellas that are listening, like, you guys are doing all right. You guys are on point, yeah. But you see yourself in younger fellas, and I remember when I was a bit younger, I wouldn't listen to shit, but some men of knowledge knew that as well, but just dropped some breadcrumbs that I knew would land over a period of time. And I try and do that almost. But when it comes to the sisters, it's been a bit corrupted because women see themselves as younger women. They don't see themselves in younger women. They don't see themselves in other women. They see themselves as younger women. And that's a great perversion that has happened over this period of time. And, there's a whole heap of childlike psychology that, boosts that up. And then you add Ahab into the mix and it turns into a shit show. But more on that another time. So thanks for hanging around for an hour and 10. But don't be shy to hit me up. I'm good to go. Battery's recharged. It's fucking game time. We're in, and I'm super excited. And in relation to consults, I'll just say this. I know there's a lot of you guys out there. I give a lot of my time that are cooking up some pretty big things. And I have spent my time with my expertise with, developing quite a few things out that can assist with just keeping those things going, but also some data points as well. So perhaps we should have a chat. But anyway, peace out, legends. I'll catch you in the next perchance moment of now. And just be fucking really who you are. Other people's feelings about it, that's their feelings. If you're true to your values and your principles, you don't need to play nonsense games. Peace out. Ciao.